Hello everyone, welcome back. Let me ask you something, right from the heart. What do you do when life suddenly collapses beneath your feet? Maybe you've experienced it already. The email that tells you your job is gone. The phone call that changes everything. The quiet moment when a relationship ends. In just a few sentences, in just a few seconds, the world you trusted can vanish. Your chest tightens, your thoughts scatter, and you wonder, how am I supposed to go on? If you've ever been there, you are not alone. Every one of us will eventually face storms we did not choose. But here's the truth. The Stoics discovered long ago, while we cannot control the storms, we can control the captain at the helm. And that captain is our mind, our inner self. In this series, we are going to explore how Stoic philosophy, ancient yet astonishingly modern, teaches us to remain calm, to adapt, and even to grow when everything seems to fall apart. Together, we'll walk through 10 powerful lessons from learning how to separate what we can control from what we cannot, to practicing amor fati, the love of fate, to seeing adversity not as punishment, but as training, and ultimately to realizing that even if the world takes everything, it cannot take away our integrity and our freedom to choose. You will hear stories both ancient and modern that remind us of human resilience. You will meet David, an ordinary man who lost his job but discovered an extraordinary strength within himself. And you will find exercises you can apply immediately, so Stoicism doesn't just stay in the books, it lives in your life. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. What has been your greatest storm, and how did you face it? Share your story in the comments. I promise you, your experience might be the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. And if you want to walk this journey with me, exploring the wisdom of the Stoics and how it can reshape your daily life, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss the lessons that may change the way you face tomorrow. It happens on a morning that looks like every other morning. The coffee steams, the cursor blinks, and then the subject line appears in your inbox with the company's name and a cool bureaucratic phrase. Organizational restructuring update. You click. A few sentences, formal and efficient, inform you that your role, your routine, your colleagues, your badge no longer exists. In an instant, continuity unravels. The room is the same, but nothing feels familiar. The quiet isn't quiet. It hums with adrenaline. You reread the lines, searching for a loophole you already know isn't there. Shock comes first, a refusal to let reality pass through the gate. Then anger. How could they? After all those late nights, the weekends surrendered to deadlines, the little rituals that built a private allegiance to the place that now says, in effect, we're moving on. Fear crowds in behind anger, rent savings, a family you love, a future you haven't planned for this way. The mind begins to spin future catastrophes like a projector you can't switch off 6 months from now, a year from now. In your body, the storm is literal, the tight chest, the dry mouth, the muscles primed for a fight that has nowhere to land. Stoicism does not deny any of this. It doesn't ask you to pretend you feel nothing. It begins elsewhere at a hinge. The Stoic hinge is not the event, but your relationship to the event. We are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them, Epictetus taught his students. The email is a thing. The avalanche of meaning you attach to it, worthlessness, exile, doom, is a view. That distinction is not academic, it is a lever. If the weight of your life is balanced completely on external events, the world can topple you. If instead you can shift some weight onto what you still command, your judgments, your choices, your efforts, then even in a collapsing hallway, you can find a steady wall to place your hand against. Let's give the moment a name and a face. David has worked at his company for 12 years. He knows the staircases no one uses, the conference room with the decent sunlight, the engineer who fixes everything quietly. He knows the long arc of products launched and retired, the managers who stayed, the ones who drifted away. His identity braided itself into the company so slowly he didn't notice. He used to say where I work. Lately, he has said who we are. The distinction was not trivial. It was a boundary line. On the morning the email arrives, it glows on the screen like a flare. The first hours are a whirlpool. David paces. Then he sits and writes a reply. He deletes. He calls Nko. No one. At noon, he forces himself to walk around the block phone in his pocket like a hot stone. He isn't rehearsing stoic phrases. He's underwater. But a line he once underlined in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations rises on its own. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The words make no promises. They point to a door. Your mind is yours, if you will claim it. Back home, he opens a notebook. On the first page, he writes 2 headings: what I control, what I don't. He lets the list come without editing. Don't the decision that has already been made, the macroeconomy, other people's opinions. Do how I speak to HR today. Whether I work out this afternoon, which 5 people I email to ask for informational conversations, how I care for my family's nerves tonight, how I talk to myself about my own competence. The list doesn't solve everything, but it interrupts the helplessness script. Under do there are verbs. Verbs invite motion. A stoic response is not a sprint to toxic positivity. It is an honest inventory followed by a small, solid step. You accept what is outside the circle of your power, because denial is a slow poison. You turn then to the circle that remains, and you enlarge it by acting inside it. In practice, that might be sending a brief, dignified reply to HR and asking clear questions about severance and benefits. It might be texting 2 former colleagues, not with a desperate plea, but with a straightforward note. I'm in transition and would value a 15-minute call to learn what you're seeing in the market. It might be closing the laptop and making a proper dinner because you refuse to let a corporate sentence determine whether your home eats well tonight. Isn't that naive? A voice argues. The rent still exists. So does the job market's indifference. Stoicism answers reality is hard enough. Do not add unnecessary hardness by warring with what you cannot move. The world will supply plenty of friction. Your task is to remove the friction you generate inside your own mind. When you do 2 good things happen. First, your energy returns to where it can actually change outcomes. Second, your dignity remains intact. Even as circumstances strip away titles and routines, they cannot strip away self-respect freely chosen. David's evening is not triumphant. Loss still aches. But small order has entered the day. He lists 5 people to contact tomorrow and drafts a crisp paragraph describing his skills without apology or ornament. He scans an industry newsletter and highlights roles that are adjacent to his old one. Lateral paths widen the map. He sets a simple morning plan: gym email, 2 applications, 1 call. Then he does an unfashionable thing. He goes to bed on time. A crisis tempts us to turn nights into anxious marathons. Stoic practice turns them back into sleep because clear judgment requires rest. It is subtle and decisive. You reclaim your story. A company cut a roll is one fact. "I have been erased" is a narrative about your worth. The second is not mandatory. You can write a different one. "A door closed. Now I will train my attention on the doors I can open." The brain takes narrative seriously. It arranges memory and desire around it. Change the story from fatalism to authorship, and you change the tone of every next sentence in your life. So the day ends not with a solution, but with a stance. You refuse to outsource your peace to forces that do not care about it. You hold your judgments like tools, not like tyrants. You decide what kind of person you will be inside this difficulty: honest, steady, courteous, and unafraid to ask for help. The world can do what it will. You will do what you choose. Tomorrow will need more than courage. It will need a reliable way to summon clarity in the very moments that usually fracture it. That leads us to the next necessity, the quiet power behind wise action when the stakes are high: calmness. Calm is often caricatured as indifference, a coolness that refuses to care. In a crisis, that mask is brittle and unhelpful. The calm we need now is different. It is not cold, it is composed. It is not passive, it is purposeful. It is the kind of poise surgeons cultivate in operating rooms and firefighters learn in smoke. It does not deny danger or pain. It makes space inside them for clear seeing and correct action. Consider what your brain is trying to do the hour after bad news. The amygdala, your alarm bell, detects threat and floods the body with chemistry designed for survival: heart rate, up muscles tightened, hypervigilance, engaged. In a saber-toothed world, this was life-saving. In a job loss email world, the same reaction can cause you to lash out, catastrophize, or freeze. Calm does not switch off the alarm. It adds a second system, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your mind that can plan, inhibit unhelpful impulses, frame events, and choose a next step that serves you tomorrow, not only today. When you create even 30 seconds of deliberate breathing, you enlist that second system. Physiology follows attention. Stoicism anticipated the psychology. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you saturate your inner air with panic, your perception tints everything red. If you pause and recolor your attention with steadiness, this is the situation. These are my options. You begin to see the field again. Calm is not a luxury. It is the operating system for sound judgment. Let's return to David. The day after the email, sleep has sanded some rough edges. The problem is not solved, but the edges are less sharp. He wakes with the familiar lurch of memory. Oh right, that happened, and chooses not to touch his phone first. He sits on the edge of the bed and breathes in for a count of 4 holds, for 4 breathes out for 6. 10 cycles. The technique is not mystical. It is a gear shift. He is telling his body, we can engage the part of us that chooses. After breakfast, he writes for 5 minutes by hand. Not eloquence, just a cleanup of yesterday's storm. What matters is that his thoughts are now on paper, where he can look at them not swirling in a fog where they look bigger than they are. Calm is not denial. When HR calls with details, David feels his pulse climb. He acknowledges it, rising heart rate, tightening jaw. Naming sensations gives you a moment of distance. He answers questions he prepared last night, takes notes, thanks the person on the call, courteous, not performative, and hangs up. There is a small victory in not making an enemy out of a messenger. He texts his partner. Call went as expected. I'm going to the gym then, working my list. The message is mundane and powerful. It shows him who he is in adversity, someone who chooses structure over spirals. What practically does this kind of calm give you? First, it cleans the lens. The anxious brain overestimates threat and underestimates capacity. Calm restores scale. You see that one company's decision is not a universal indictment. You see new paths, adjacent roles, contract work skills you can refresh in weeks, not years. You see people you can talk to and how to ask without apologizing for being alive. Second, it protects relationships. In the first days after a loss, it is dangerously easy to discharge fear as anger on a partner, a child, a friend. Calm buys you the beat, in which you choose a sentence that draws you closer instead of pushing you apart. I'm scared today. Could you sit with me for a few minutes? Strength is sometimes a softened voice. Third, it upgrades your effort. Panic scatters action. Calm sequences it. 2 applications thoughtfully tailored are better than 10 frantic submissions. 1 warm introduction is better than a blast of generic messages. A 20-minute skill lesson completed daily is better than an hour of self-reproach. But I don't feel calm, you might protest. Fair. You don't have to feel it to practice it. Calm is not an identity. It is a set of behaviors repeated until the feeling often follows. Here is a starter kit. Breath discipline, 3 times a day. Pick a consistent cue, the kettle, the elevator, the car ignition, and do 10 slow cycles. Information boundaries, choose 2 windows to check the news, not a constant drip. Your attention is an asset. Spend it where it compounds. Paper thinking. Each morning, write 1 page. What happened? What I control? What I'll do next? The ritual contains you. A sentence for storms. Decide now what you'll tell yourself when fear spikes. This is difficult, and I can still take a useful step. Rehearse it. Use it. David's day is not a montage of triumphs. It is ordinary in a disciplined way. He sends 3 notes he drafted. He updates his resume bullet points with outcome metrics instead of task lists. He schedules a 15-minute call with a former teammate who moved into an adjacent field last year. He lifts light weights and walks outside for 20 minutes. He cooks dinner. He watches a comedy instead of doom scrolling. He goes to bed again at a decent hour. None of this is heroic. All of it is strategic. Tomorrow's clarity is being funded by today's calm. There is a temptation to postpone calm until after circumstances improve, as if composure were a reward you earn once life behaves. Stoicism reverses the order. You choose calm now so that you are the kind of person around whom order begins to return. You go first. The world may follow slowly, partially unpredictably, but your inner life does not have to wait for permission. Calm is not the whole path. On its own, it risks becoming a private garden, pleasant but isolated. What comes next in the Stoic sequence gives calm a direction. It asks you to draw a firm line between what belongs to you and what does not, so your energy is no longer stolen by unwinnable fights. That line is the dichotomy of control. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Branches fly to rain lashes. The wind insists on tearing your coat away. You try to command the sky, stop, it does not stop. You try to scold the trees, hold still, they do not obey. Every ounce of energy hurled at the storm is wasted. Then you notice something, your hand is still yours. You can choose to grip the umbrella differently, to walk towards shelter, to calm your breath, even as the wind screams. The storm is vast, but not everything belongs to it. Something still belongs to you. This is the Stoic lesson called the Dichotomy of Control. Epictetus, born a slave and later a teacher, opened his manual with the blunt distinction: some things are up to us and some are not. In those few words, lives an operating system for the human mind. Up to us includes our judgments, our intentions, our efforts, our choices. Not up to us includes almost everything else. Other people's decisions, the economy, the weather, the past, the timing of fortune. Suffering multiplies when we confuse the categories. We exhaust ourselves fighting what we can never govern, and we neglect what we can. Let's return to David. After the loss of his job, the mind produced an endless chain of if-onlys. If only management had recognized his value. If only the market were better. If only colleagues spoke up for him. These are natural thoughts, but they are traps. They belong in the column of not up to me. What is up to David is different. How he frames the email, how he speaks to his partner tonight, whether he spends an hour sharpening his resume or an hour spiraling through social media resentment. On a fresh page in his notebook, David draws 2 columns. At the top of one, he writes, "What I control." At the top of the other, "What I don't." Into the second column, he pours his grievances, the executive decision, the rumours in the industry, the downturn. Into the first, he pours small but real powers, his daily schedule, his willingness to reach out, his choice to exercise his tone of voice when explaining the situation to his children. When he looks at the paper, the storm is still there, but the circle of what belongs to him glows clearer. He cannot stop the market, but he can stop tormenting himself with the illusion that he should. This exercise is not new. The ancients practiced it as a form of mental hygiene. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his journal, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Notice the focus. Not if they do not reward me, I will protest. But if it is not right, I will not act. The lever is always internal. Seneca warned against borrowing trouble from the future. Another way of spending today's energy on what is not up to us. The distinction sounds simple, but it is radical. It reframes identity. If who you are depends on events, you are perpetually at their mercy. If who you are depends on your response to events, you carry sovereignty, even in loss. This is why Epictetus could claim that a tyrant may chain his body, but not his will. His freedom was real because it was located where no one else could enter. To apply this practice, naming the category in real time. Suppose you see a rejection email from a company where you interviewed. Before the spiral begins, pause. Not up to me. What is up to you? The quality of your preparation for the next one. The courtesy of your reply. The persistence of your search. Suppose a friend cancels plans last minute. Not up to you. Up to you whether you stew in resentment or use the evening for something nourishing. Over and over you draw the line. Each time you retrieve energy from the fire of futility and invest it in the soil of agency. David feels the difference quickly. Instead of refreshing job boards every half hour, he sets a disciplined window for applications and another for learning a skill in demand. Instead of ruminating on the company's betrayal, he spends time updating his professional profile and writing a thoughtful article about trends in his field, something he controls, and something that quietly re-establishes his presence in the market. When he catches himself in if-only mode, he whispers, column 2, and moves his mind back. You can deepen the practice with a ritual. Light a candle, as David sometimes does now, and take 10 minutes to write not only the 2 lists, but also a private letter. In it, you unload the words you cannot say aloud: anger, fear, disappointment. You write them fully, then fold the page. Some days you keep it. Some days you burn it in the flame and watch the smoke carry it upward. The act is symbolic. This grief belongs to column 2, outside my control. I release it. What remains on the table is what I will carry into tomorrow. The strength of the dichotomy of control is its clarity. It does not promise rescue. It promises lucidity. You know where to stand. You know which fights are winnable and which are not. You stop being a hostage to fantasy battles against the uncontrollable. The serenity that results is not passive. It fuels decisive motion on what matters. Marcus Aurelius urged himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That realization is the hinge between despair and dignity. The storm may still roar, but the hand on the umbrella is yours. And once you have practiced this separation, once you have ceased clawing at the walls of fate, you are ready for the next step in stoic resilience, not only accepting what comes, but learning to love it. This is the spirit of amor fati. When a loss first arrives, the instinct is resistance. This should not have happened. We replay the moment in our minds trying to edit reality. Stoicism proposes a different path, not merely acceptance but affection. Amor fati, the love of fate, is the discipline of embracing not only the pleasant chapters, but also the painful ones as integral to the whole of our lives. At first glance, this sounds impossible. Who can love being dismissed, being betrayed, being sick? But amor fati is not masochism. It is recognition. Life is not a menu where you order only what tastes sweet. It is a woven tapestry. To tear out the dark threads is to ruin the picture. By loving even the parts that bruise you, keep the wholeness of the pattern. Seneca put it plainly, a good character loves fate. For what could be better than to align your will with the universe's will? Marcus Aurelius phrased it with a gardener's clarity. The blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it. In both voices is the same invitation: treat obstacles, not as accidents, but as material. Let us return to David. In the weeks after his termination, the edge of panic dulled. He applied for jobs, built a schedule, kept his composure. Yet underneath a sourness remained. He told friends, "It's not fair," and replayed the email like a courtroom exhibit. Then one morning, during a long walk, he paused. He realized the years at that company had also exhausted him. He had grown comfortable, not creative. His children had asked too many times, "Are you coming home late again?" The loss, though harsh, had forced him to reconsider his life's direction. In that recognition, something shifted. The event was no longer only theft. It was also gift, rough, unwanted, but gift. If this had not happened, he thought, I might never have changed. That is amor fati in action, not grateful for the pain itself, but grateful for the transformation it can trigger. There is a crucial difference between resignation and love of fate. Resignation says, I have no choice, so I will endure. Amor fati says I welcome this too, because it belongs to my path. The former feels heavy, the latter feels strangely light. When you see your difficulties as companions on the journey, rather than intruders, you walk with a different posture. Think of Viktor Frankl, a modern echo of Stoic spirit. In a concentration camp, stripped of possessions and freedom, he realized that one freedom remained untouchable, the freedom to choose his attitude. Out of that discovery, he built a psychology of meaning. His suffering did not vanish, but he transformed it into testimony that guides millions today. That is amor fati in its most radical form, turning horror into responsibility and responsibility into light. A practice can help us embody this mindset. Each night, write down one event from the day that frustrated you. Then beside it write, if I chose to love this, what would it teach me? If a meeting wasted your time, perhaps it taught patience. If a bill arrived, perhaps it reminded you to live simply. If someone criticized you, perhaps it gave you a chance to strengthen humility. This reframing is not self-deception, it is self-direction. Another exercise, repeat the phrase, amor fati, when facing irritation. You are stuck in traffic. Whisper it. You spill coffee. Whisper it. Each whisper lays a stone on the path until the words become instinct. Slowly you stop fighting every friction and begin to walk with it. The ancients knew this posture well. Epictetus, crippled in body, still taught his students to meet each hardship as training. Marcus Aurelius, burdened with plague and war, still wrote of loving the destiny given to him. Their lives were not easier than ours. Their practice was simply steadier. David began to live this way. Instead of resenting his dismissal, he spoke of it differently. That company gave me 12 years, and then it gave me a push. I'm grateful for both. He volunteered some of his free time to help a friend with a startup and discovered skills he had neglected. He reconnected with his family, learning the contours of ordinary evenings. What began as a loss turned through the lens of amor fati into a redirection. The truth is not that everything is good. The truth is that everything can be used for good if received with wisdom. Fire burns or warms depending on how you meet it. Fate crushes or cultivates depending on how you hold it. To love your fate is to trust that no matter what arrives, you remain the artist who can shape it into meaning. So ask yourself tonight, if I could stop fighting fate and begin to love it, what freedom would open? What burdens would dissolve into lessons? And how might my future self thank me for welcoming today's hardship instead of cursing it? To practice amor fati is to soften the grip of resistance and strengthen the muscle of gratitude. And once you see every event as potential teacher, the next truth becomes clearer still. Nothing stays. Everything flows. The practice of loving fate prepares you for the deeper recognition of impermanence and the art of letting go. Picture a shoreline. Waves arrive, crash, dissolve into foam and retreat. You can build castles there intricate with towers and moats, but the tide comes regardless. No argument persuades it to pause. The tide belongs to its own rhythm, not to your will. Life is the same. Everything we touch is temporary. Jobs, homes, relationships, even our own breath, they are all waves. Stoicism asks us to live with this truth, not against it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Soon you will have forgotten all things, and all things will have forgotten you." Far from bleak, he meant this as medicine. Impermanence is not tragedy, it is reality, and when accepted, it frees us from clinging. Seneca echoed, "We are not given possession of life, but loaned it." To demand permanence of what is loaned is to guarantee disappointment. David discovered this slowly. At first, he treated the loss of his job as if the universe had stolen something that should have been forever. He replayed the shock again and again. But as weeks passed, he remembered he had seen others lose jobs too. He had even reassured friends that it happens. Now that it happened to him, the myth of permanence cracked. The role was never permanent. It was always a temporary arrangement. He simply forgot. This is the trap of attachment. We assume this will last, whether this is a salary, a relationship, or youth. When reality contradicts the assumption, pain multiplies. The event hurts. The shattering of the illusion hurts more. To reduce suffering, Stoicism urges us to rehearse impermanence daily so its arrival does not feel like betrayal. Letting go does not mean neglect or indifference. It means holding with open hands. You love your partner, but you do not bind them in your mind with forever guaranteed. You enjoy your health, but you do not imagine it immune to age. You value your possessions, but you recognize them as temporary guests. This stance intensifies appreciation. When you know something is passing, you savor it. A meal, a walk, a conversation. Each becomes more radiant precisely because it will not repeat. Practical exercise create a box of release. Write down on slips of paper the things you grasp too tightly. I must never lose this job. This person must always stay. My status must remain unchanged. Place the slips in a box. Close the lid. Each time you feel fear of loss, remember the box. You have already admitted these things are not truly yours to keep. The act is symbolic, but the psyche understands symbols. It begins to loosen its fist. David tried something like this. One evening, he listed his fears. If I don't get hired soon, I'll lose my apartment. If I fail again, I'll disappoint everyone. He folded the page, put it in a small wooden box he once used for keepsakes, and shut the lid. It did not erase the problems, but it gave him a ritual of release. He felt lighter, able to face the next morning without the full weight pressing on his chest. Impermanence also teaches humility. No triumph lasts forever. Empires fade. Reputations blur, fortunes dwindle. When you know this arrogance melts, you stop demanding to be remembered eternally and instead focus on living rightly today. The Stoics would say, fame and wealth are externals. Virtue is the only possession time cannot erode. Consider Buddhist monks who sweep away elaborate sand mandalas just after finishing them. The point is not destruction, but recognition. Beauty exists for a moment, then yields to the next moment. That act is a lesson. Clinging to permanence is folly, but enjoying the present is wisdom. Stoicism and Buddhism, though different traditions, harmonize here. The paradox of impermanence is that it can make you both gentler and stronger. Gentler because you stop blaming life for change. It was always built to change. Stronger because when you no longer cling desperately, you are freer to adapt. Like a tree that bends with the wind, you survive. Storms not by rigidity, but by flexibility. Ask yourself, what am I clutching that is slipping anyway? What would happen if I unclenched my hands and let the current carry it? Might I discover that what remains my character, my choices, my inner calm is more valuable than what departs? David came to this realization. I lost a role, not my worth. Titles pass, but the habits I build, the integrity I keep, the skills I grow, these endure. The shift was quiet, but it changed how he carried himself. He stopped seeing himself as a man without a job and started seeing himself as a man building a life. Impermanence will visit you whether you welcome it or not. To practice letting go is to prepare your heart. And once you can let go, you are ready for the next discipline to look ahead at possible misfortunes and train for them in advance. This is the art of premeditatio malorum, preparing for the worst so that the worst no longer terrifies you. To most people, imagining misfortune sounds like an invitation to anxiety. Why think about bad things before they happen? They ask. Isn't life already stressful enough? The Stoics, however, saw it differently. They believed that one of the greatest protections for peace of mind is to practice adversity before adversity practices you. They called this exercise premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This was not morbid indulgence or pessimism. It was training. Just as soldiers rehearse battles before they fight, and athletes visualize the course before they run, Stoics visualize setbacks before they struck. By preparing the mind, they weakened the element of shock and reclaimed a measure of freedom. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand. Premeditatio malorum begins with a simple act, deliberate imagination. You picture losing what you now take for granted. You walk through the scenario calmly, like a traveller inspecting a map. You imagine the loss of wealth, of status, of comfort. You even contemplate illness and death. Not to obsess, but to remember none of these are truly yours. They are on loan from fortune, and fortune may recall them at any time. Why do this? Because we suffer twice without it, once in anticipation and once in reality. But with practice, we suffer less when reality comes, because we have already greeted it in the mind." For David, still adjusting to the loss of his job, premeditatio malorum became a turning point. At first, he avoided the thought of further decline. Each unpaid bill pressed on him like a shadow. But avoidance is fragile. The more he resisted the thought, "What if I can't find work?" the more power it gained. One evening, he decided to try the Stoic way. He sat at his desk, lit a candle, and took out his notebook. On the left side, he wrote, "What else could go wrong?" The words looked dangerous, but he kept writing. He imagined, "What if I don't find work for 6 months? What if savings run out? What if we must leave this apartment? What if I need to take a lower paying role?" Each scenario hurt to picture, but something surprising happened. Clarity. He began to plan. If 6 months passed, he would downsize expenses now to prepare. If savings ran out, he could move in temporarily with family. If lower pay arrived, he could supplement with freelance work. By envisioning the worst, he robbed it of its power to paralyze. The fears stopped being shapeless monsters. They became specific and therefore manageable. Critics confuse this practice with negativity, but pessimism assumes defeat. Premeditatio malorum assumes resilience. The pessimist says it will go wrong. The Stoic says it might go wrong, so I will be ready. The first voice drains hope. The second voice strengthens resolve. Epictetus told his students to rehearse loss daily. When you kiss your child, say to yourself, "Tomorrow he may die." To modern ears, this sounds brutal, but Epictetus's purpose was tenderness, not cruelty. By remembering mortality, you cherish more deeply. By accepting fragility, you love without illusion. Modern psychology has caught up to this Stoic insight. Research on defensive pessimism shows that people who calmly anticipate possible setbacks perform better because they have already prepared strategies. Visualization, widely used by athletes, has the same root. When you rehearse adversity, the real event shocks you less. Premeditatio malorum builds resilience by normalizing discomfort. The mind stops reacting with panic because it has seen this before. Just as firefighters train in smoke-filled rooms to inoculate against panic, Stoics trained their minds in simulated misfortunes. How can you try this without sinking into gloom? 5-minute drill each morning. Write down one bad thing that could happen today. Then write, "If this happens, how will I respond with dignity?" Gratitude by contrast. Imagine losing something you currently have. Your health, a loved one, your home. Then return to the present and thank life that you still hold it. Gratitude sharpens after rehearsal of loss. Financial stoicism. Occasionally practice living with less. Eat a simple meal. Take public transport. Limit spending. Seneca himself slept on the floor at times to prove he could. This reduces fear of poverty by turning it into an experience survived. The candle ritual: light a candle, write down your unspoken fears and read them aloud calmly. Then burn the page. This makes the invisible visible and then symbolically releases it. David began doing the 5-minute drill. One morning he wrote, "Today I might be rejected again." Underneath he added, "If so, I will send one more application anyway." Rejection trains persistence. Another day he wrote, "I may feel worthless." Underneath, "If so, I will remind myself that character is worth more than titles." Instead of drowning in fear, he started to feel trained by it. When another rejection email arrived, he shrugged, not with indifference, but with recognition. I rehearsed this already. Roman generals practiced this too. Before battle, they rehearsed losing men, retreating, facing ambush. By anticipating disaster, they reduced its sting when it came. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men of his time, still practiced fasting, wearing simple clothes, and going without luxuries for stretches, so that loss would not terrify him. His advice: set aside a certain number of days during which you will be content with the scantiest of fare and roughest clothing, and say to yourself, "Is this what I feared?" Modern parallels abound. Emergency responders run drills for disasters that may never come. Pilots train in simulators filled with malfunctions. None of them hope for accidents. They prepare so that if accidents arrive, they respond instead of freeze. Premeditatio malorum yields 3 harvests. Readiness: you have a plan. Fear shrinks when it meets preparation. Resilience: hardship surprises you less so. You recover faster. Gratitude: by imagining loss, you appreciate more deeply what is still present. David experienced all 3. His readiness increased as he sketched backup plans. His resilience grew with each rejection survived. And his gratitude blossomed one night at dinner. He thought, "I could lose even this. And because I haven't, I am rich." At its heart, premeditatio malorum is not about obsession with fear. It is about freedom from fear. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." This daily contemplation stripped away illusions of invincibility, making him both humbler and bolder. By training for misfortune, you reduce its power to unseat you. You move from fragile to anti-fragile, from breaking under weight to growing stronger because of it. David, once undone by a single email, was becoming a man who could stare down possibilities and keep walking. And once you see adversity not only as survivable, but as usable, a further step opens. The Stoics invite us to view adversity not merely as something to prepare for, but as something that actively trains and strengthens us. That is the next lesson. Adversity itself is the gymnasium of the soul. A soldier does not grow strong while polishing boots in the safety of camp. He grows strong in mud, under fire, with fear gnawing at his chest. A tree does not send its roots deep into the soil on calm days. Roots reach down because storms demand it. The Stoics understood this truth. Adversity is not an interruption to life's training, it is the training. Epictetus once said, "Difficulties show what men are." He compared hardship to sparring partners sent by the gods not to crush you, but to make you capable. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold, misfortune tests brave men." And Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by wars and plague, declared, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle, in other words, is the path. This perspective flips the usual script. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoic asks, "What am I being trained for?" Adversity becomes a curriculum, each hardship, a lesson in the virtues that no classroom can fully teach: courage, patience, humility, endurance. By now, David has practiced calm, written his lists of control whispered, amor fati, reflected on impermanence, and rehearsed loss through premeditatio malorum. But life still tests him. Weeks of applications yield few interviews. Bills accumulate. He feels shame when old colleagues announce new roles on LinkedIn. One evening, as he stares at another rejection email, the thought surges, I am worthless. But instead of drowning in that verdict, he pauses. He remembers Epictetus's metaphor, life as a gymnasium. Perhaps this rejection is not condemnation, it is training. He asks a different question in his journal. What is this hardship training in me? The answers arrive slowly. Rejection is training's persistence to keep moving even when doors close. Financial stress is training simplicity to live with less and discover what truly matters. Loss of status is training humility to stop anchoring identity in a title. The uncertainty is training courage to stand in fog without guarantees. Each pain becomes a set of weights he can lift. Each lift makes him stronger. Comfort is pleasant, but it rarely forms character. Left too long in ease, we become soft, entitled, untested. The Stoics distrusted luxury precisely because it hides reality's sharp edges. Adversity, by contrast, strips illusions. It forces confrontation with limits, and in that confrontation, growth. Think of physical training. Muscles grow only when stressed. The fibers must tear slightly in order to rebuild stronger. The discomfort is the process. Stoics applied this metaphor to the soul virtue strengthens through stress. Courage without danger is theory. Patience without delay is unproven. Humility without humiliation is fragile. Only adversity validates. To turn this perspective into practice, try the adversity journal. Each evening, write the hardest moment of your day. Then beneath it write, what did this train in me? Stuck in traffic for an hour, trained patience, argument with a colleague, trained self-control, disappointment in results, trained resilience. Over time, the journal reframes experience. Life stops feeling like a series of attacks and starts looking like a series of workouts. Instead of despairing, you ask, what virtue am I building today? David did this exercise. On Tuesday, he wrote, rejection email. Underneath, trained persistence. On Wednesday, bank account dwindling. Underneath, trained simplicity. On Thursday, child asked, Dad, why are you home so much now? Underneath, trained honesty and gentleness. The shift was quiet but profound. He began to respect his hardship as a teacher. History is full of figures who turned adversity into training. Epictetus himself was born a slave, physically disabled, subjected to cruelty. Yet he transformed chains into lessons and became one of the most respected teachers of philosophy. His freedom was trained in captivity. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, much of it in hard labor. Instead of breaking, he emerged more patient, more strategic, more compassionate. The bars became his classroom. Helen Keller, deaf and blind, from infancy, trained her mind and spirit until she became a writer, activist, and symbol of resilience worldwide. Her limitations became the forge of her vision. The Stoics would say, these lives are not exceptions, they are examples. Adversity, if received as training, forms the kind of strength that nothing else can. Adversity is inevitable, but training through it requires intention. Here are Stoic methods. Name the trainer. When hardship comes, call it my trainer. Instead of why this say, what lesson now naming changes posture. Lift the right weight. Don't try to lift the whole world. Focus on the specific challenge today. Endure this pain. Solve this problem. Tomorrow has its own weight. Track the gains. Keep your adversity journal. Note the virtues being built. Over time, you will see the invisible muscles of character thickening. Rest wisely. Training requires recovery. Stoicism does not mean grinding until collapse. It means pacing yourself, balancing endurance with renewal. As David practiced this, his self-description changed. At first, he called himself a man discarded, then a man in transition. Now, he began to think, I am a man in training. The difference was enormous. One identity breeds shame, the other breeds resilience. One clings to the past, the other invests in the future. Friends noticed. Instead of bitterness, his voice carried steadiness. Instead of self-pity, his eyes carried quiet determination. His adversity had not lessened, but his relationship to it had. He was not only enduring, he was being refined. What does training in hardship yield? Discipline. You learn to govern yourself when no one else does. Humility. You remember how fragile control is, and you treat others with gentleness. Resilience. You bounce back faster because you have rehearsed setbacks. Wisdom. You distinguish what matters from what doesn't, because adversity strips away illusions. These are not abstract. They are the invisible trophies of a life tested well. Once you see adversity as training, even chaos outside cannot fully disturb you. You realize every storm is another drill, every delay, another exercise. This prepares you for the next stage of stoic practice, building an inner fortress so stable that no matter how loud the world roars, you remain at peace. Picture a crowded city street at rush hour. Horns blare, pedestrians push past each other, sirens scream in the distance. Everything is motion, noise, and urgency. Now imagine one person standing still at the corner, breathing slowly, observing without being consumed. That person is not escaping reality. They are inhabiting it differently. This is the Stoic practice of cultivating inner peace, even when the outer world is in chaos. Marcus Aurelius captured this paradox beautifully. People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the coast, or in the hills. There is nowhere that a person can find a more peaceful and trouble-free retreat than in their own soul. The Emperor of Rome, beset by wars, plague and politics, knew that the world outside rarely calms down. Waiting for calm to arrive is futile. True calm must be constructed inside. In David's story, the storm did not end when he reframed adversity as training. Bills still arrived, rejections still stung. The job market remained indifferent. Outer life has its own rhythm, immune to our desire for stability. The modern world amplifies this truth. News alerts deliver crisis by the minute. Social media bombards us with arguments, comparisons, and noise. Work demands increase while personal time shrinks. If peace depends on circumstances, peace will always be fragile. The Stoics understood this long before smartphones. They saw that the crowd, the court, and the battlefield were noisy too. Their answer was not withdrawal from life, but a shift of focus. You cannot command the world to be quiet, but you can train your soul to be still. After months of strain, David realized something important. He had been waiting for the storm of unemployment to pass before granting himself calm. He thought, once I have a new job, then I'll breathe easier. But that meant handing all his peace over to the world's timing. One morning, he tried something different. He made coffee, sat in silence for 10 minutes, and wrote a single sentence. Calm is available now. The outer chaos did not change. Bills were still due, But inside for those 10 minutes, he discovered a pocket of quiet. It was small, but it was his. He began to realize what Marcus Aurelius meant. The truest retreat is inward. How can we follow the Stoics into this inner retreat? Breathing discipline. When agitation rises, pause and count your breaths. A simple pattern in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6, activates the rational part of the brain and quiets the alarm system. Journaling as clearing. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations was his private journal, never meant for publication. Each entry was a broom for the mind. Write down your fears, your anger, your plans. Seeing them on paper shrinks their power, limiting noise. Epictetus reminded his students not to be swept away by every rumor. Today that means setting boundaries with news and social media. 2 check-ins a day may suffice. The mind does not need a constant flood. Creating a peaceful space. Choose a corner of your home as your sanctuary. It could be a chair by the window, a cushion, or a desk with a candle. Train your mind to associate that place with calm. Each visit strengthens the association. Mantra for chaos. Have a line ready when the world overwhelms you. Marcus used, you have power over your mind, not outside events. You might whisper, chaos outside, calm inside. The repetition plants roots. What does this inner fortress give you? Clearer decisions, panic clouds judgment. Peace clarifies. You respond instead of react. Healthier relationships. Instead of lashing out, you speak from composure. Others trust you more. Joy in the present. By refusing to let outer noise dictate your mood, you savor simple pleasures, a meal, a laugh, a walk. Stability through change. You become like a harbor. Storms rage, waves crash, but ships can still anchor in your presence. David noticed these fruits slowly. When his children asked about money, he no longer snapped. Don't worry about it. Instead, he knelt and explained with calm honesty, we're making adjustments, but we'll be okay. His partner noticed the difference too. You seem steadier, she said one evening. The storm had not ended, but David had stopped carrying the storm inside. Marcus Aurelius. While leading Rome during plagues and invasions, he wrote daily reminders to himself about patience, humility, and calm. His empire was in turmoil. His inner empire was ordered. James Stockdale, an American pilot shot down in Vietnam. He survived years of imprisonment and torture. He credited Stoicism, especially Epictetus, for teaching him that while he could not control his captors, he could control his mind. His inner calm was his resistance. Modern professionals, neurosurgeons, firefighters and pilots train precisely to cultivate calm inside chaos. Their environments are literally life and death. Those who panic fail. Those who practice inner peace succeed. Inner peace is not withdrawal. It is not pretending chaos does not exist. It is engaging fully with life while refusing to surrender your soul to it. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Inner peace corrects imagination. It prevents catastrophizing. Think of it like a thermostat. The weather outside may shift wildly, but the thermostat regulates the inner climate. You cannot control storms, but you can set the temperature of your inner room. Each evening, choose a time, perhaps after dinner. Go to your peaceful corner, light a candle, or simply sit quietly. Spend 5 minutes breathing, then write 3 sentences. What outer chaos did I face today? Did I allow it to control my inner state? How can I protect peace tomorrow? Close with gratitude. Name one small thing you still have. Over time, This ritual rewires the brain to seek stability within instead of waiting for it outside. David adopted a version of this. Each night, he wrote, outer chaos rejection email, inner response, disappointment, but not despair. Adjustment tomorrow, one more application. These simple notes kept him balanced. By practicing inner peace, David was not merely surviving, he was stabilizing. He discovered that calmness itself is a form of strength. Others began leaning on his steadiness. His children felt safe, his partner less anxious, his friends inspired. Chaos outside had not diminished, but David had become resilient inside it. Inner peace is not the end of the Stoic path. It is the foundation for the next stage resilience, the capacity not only to remain calm, but to rise stronger after every blow. As Marcus wrote, the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes, the obstacle to our acting. Peace within prepares you to transform obstacles into growth. Think of a tree in the middle of a storm. The branches sway, the trunk leans, leaves scatter in the wind. From a distance, you might think it will snap. But when the storm passes, the tree is still there. Its roots, tested by wind, are deeper. Its trunk, hardened by strain, is stronger. This is resilience, not the absence of hardship, but the ability to bend, absorb, and emerge steadier. The Stoics believed resilience was not optional. Life would batter everyone from emperors to slaves. The only choice was whether the battering broke you or built you. Marcus Aurelius insisted, the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes, the obstacle to our acting. Seneca agreed, the good man does not avoid hardship, he welcomes it. For adversity is the training of the soul. Resilience is often misunderstood as toughness, as if the resilient person simply grits their teeth and ignores pain. But true resilience is more flexible than rigid. It is the combination of endurance and adaptability, the capacity to suffer without shattering and to adjust without surrendering. The Stoics modeled resilience not by pretending to enjoy suffering, but by transforming suffering into growth. To them, resilience was not about surviving unchanged. It was about surviving changed, emerging with deeper wisdom, sharper virtue, greater courage. For David, resilience became the next test. He had calmed his mind, reframed adversity as training, and found inner peace amid chaos. But the practical strain of unemployment still pressed down. Rejections continued, and money grew tight. Old anxieties resurfaced. At first, he thought resilience meant suppressing fear, pretending he was fine. That only exhausted him. Then he realized resilience was not about pretending strength, but about practicing it. It was about showing up again and again, even while afraid. So David adjusted his approach. He simplified his lifestyle, reducing expenses and learning to live with less. Instead of feeling ashamed, he treated this as training in Stoic simplicity. He embraced temporary jobs and freelance work, not as failures, but as bridges. Each role kept him moving, kept him learning, and showed his children that persistence matters more than pride. He reached out to others who had also lost jobs, offering encouragement. Helping others reminded him that his worth was not defined by income, but by contribution. The result was subtle but powerful. He still faced hardship, but he stopped fearing collapse. Each challenge bent him, none broke him. The Stoics identified key qualities that make resilience possible. Acceptance of reality. Resilience begins with clarity. You stop wishing the storm away and face it honestly. Epictetus. Do not hope that events will happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do. Acceptance prevents wasted energy. Flexibility of response. A rigid mind breaks. A flexible mind bends. The Stoic learns to adjust strategies to pivot when doors close. David discovered this when he turned from one industry to another, exploring adjacent skills. Trust in inner strength resilience requires confidence that you can endure. Marcus reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This self-trust carries you when circumstances do not. Anchoring in meaning resilience is easier when you know what you are enduring for. Parents endure for children. Leaders endure for duty. Philosophers endure for truth. For David, resilience was anchored in his love for family and his commitment to integrity. Here is a practice to strengthen resilience. Draw a circle in the center of a page. Inside, write your current adversity. Around it, draw 4 branches. What I'm learning, how I'm adapting, who supports me, why I endure. Fill in each branch. This transforms the problem from a wall into a map. You see growth strategy, allies, and purpose. David tried this. In the center, job loss. Around it, learning patience, humility, adapting, exploring freelance. Support partner, 2 close friends, enduring for family's future. The map turned chaos into structure. He felt less like a victim, more like a traveler navigating terrain. Resilience shines most in extreme lives. Epictetus, crippled and enslaved, refused to define himself by suffering. Instead, he used suffering as a platform for wisdom. Admiral James Stockdale, shot down and imprisoned in Vietnam, survived years of torture by recalling Epictetus. He said, "I never lost faith in the end of the story." His resilience was not denial, it was meaning. Helen Keller, both blind and deaf, built a life of learning, advocacy, and inspiration. Her disabilities were not the end of her life. They were the beginning of a new form of resilience that touched millions. These examples remind us resilience is not the privilege of the few. It is the capacity of any human soul that chooses meaning over despair. Resilience yields several fruits: strength. Each challenge endured becomes proof of capacity. Confidence, knowing you survived before, makes you less afraid of future trials. Compassion, the resilient often help others because they know the terrain of suffering. Wisdom, you learn the difference between what can be lost, money, titles, and what cannot. Character, dignity. For David, resilience gave him not only stability, but also a kind of quiet pride. "I lost a job," he told a friend, "but I didn't lose myself. In fact, I think I've gained parts of myself I had neglected." Resilience is not invincibility. Storms still bend us, but resilience means we rise again, carrying scars as signs of strength. The Stoics invite us to see resilience as a lifelong art. Each difficulty is another repetition in the gym of the soul. And once you realize you can bend without breaking, a final truth comes into focus. Even if the outer world takes everything, your career, your possessions, your reputation, one thing always remains. That final unshakable core is yourself. That is where our journey leads next. Imagine a house after a storm. The roof is torn, windows shattered, belongings scattered. From the outside it looks destroyed, but step closer and you see the foundation is still intact. The house can be rebuilt because its base endures. Human life is similar. The storms of fate, job loss, illness, betrayal, death, can strip away nearly everything we cling to. But the Stoics insisted that one thing always remains if we guard it well: our inner self, the core of character, the freedom of our own mind. Marcus Aurelius, who lost children, battled plagues, and ruled an empire in crisis, reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Epictetus, once a slave crippled in body, declared, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will." Seneca echoed, "The wise man is content with himself." The Stoic message is clear. When everything external collapses, the internal remains if you choose to keep it. Months into his ordeal, David's external world was still fragile. His savings were thinner than ever. His professional reputation felt uncertain. Friends moved ahead while he rebuilt from scratch. One night, discouraged, he opened his journal and wrote, "I have lost so much. What if I lose more?" Then he paused. He realized something startling. Despite everything, he was still here. He still had the power to write those words. He still had the freedom to choose his next sentence. He wrote beneath it, "They cannot take my integrity. They cannot take my love. They cannot take my will to act." In that moment, David understood the Stoic foundation. He could lose work, money, status, and even comfort, but he could not lose himself unless he surrendered. His dignity, his choices, his values, these were the foundation stones that no storm could uproot. The Stoics catalogued what fortune can strip away and what it cannot, can be taken: wealth, reputation, health, possessions, even relationships, cannot be taken: judgment, intention, virtue, the freedom to respond with courage and honor. This distinction liberates. If your identity rests on externals, you will always live in fear because externals are fragile. But if your identity rests on what is internal, you live in strength because internals are untouchable. Think of Admiral James Stockdale imprisoned in Vietnam. He was beaten, starved, isolated. Yet he wrote, "I never lost faith in the end of the story." He survived not because of external freedom, but because he anchored in internal freedom. Why is self unshakable? Because integrity is not granted by the world, it is chosen. You can be poor and honest, sick and courageous, humiliated and dignified. Integrity is not circumstance dependent, it is character dependent. Epictetus told his students, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because the essence of life is not applause, but virtue. When you know who you are inside, the loss of external approval cannot destroy you. David experienced this. He stopped measuring himself by titles and started measuring by actions. Each day he asked, "Did I act with honesty? Did I keep my word? Did I care for my family?" If the answers were yes, then even amid loss, he was living well. To ground yourself, make 2 lists. What I can lose. Write everything: external, job, possessions, status, health. Accept that these are not truly yours. What I cannot lose. Write integrity, choice, compassion, courage, wisdom. Read the second list every morning. It is your foundation. Storms may come, but these stones remain if you guard them. David did this exercise. At first, the can lose list was longer, but as he reread the cannot lose list, he realized it contained the essence of life. He whispered, "This is me. This is mine." Socrates, condemned to death, refused to compromise his principles. He lost life itself, but kept integrity. His example endures millennia later. Marcus Aurelius, amid plague and invasion, wrote about justice, courage, moderation, and wisdom, not victories of empire, but victories of the soul. Viktor Frankl, in Nazi camps, realized everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. These examples prove even when stripped bare, The human being who clings to virtue is never truly poor, never truly defeated. The phrase "everything falls apart" is misleading. It describes externals, not internals. The house may collapse, but the foundation can remain. The Stoic lives by guarding that foundation, knowing if integrity stands, rebuilding is always possible. This reframing changes despair into defiance. Instead of saying, "I lost everything," you can say, "I lost much, but not myself." That single shift carries hope. Months later, David finally landed a new role, not the same as before, but sufficient. Yet even before the offer, he had already changed. He told a friend, the real victory wasn't the job. It was realizing I am more than a job. They can take away my position, but they cannot take away who I choose to be. This is the core Stoic triumph. External victory is uncertain, but internal victory is always possible. Marcus Aurelius left us this line: "If you work at that which is before you, following right reason, seriously, vigorously, calmly, without allowing anything else to distract you, but keeping your divine part pure, you will live happy." And there is no man who can prevent this. Happiness, then, is not fragile. It does not depend on applause, wealth, or permanence. It depends on tending the inner citadel. Ask yourself, if one day you lost your work, your possessions, even your reputation, would you still have yourself? Would you still stand on the foundation of integrity, courage, and wisdom? If the answer is yes, then you are free, because when everything falls apart, you remain unbroken. And so we come to the end of our journey together. We began with a simple but haunting question: what do you do when life falls apart? Along the way, we have walked through the Stoic path, 10 steps that remind us that while the world outside can be uncertain, the strength within us can be unshakable. We've seen how calm is not weakness, but clarity, how the dichotomy of control frees us from endless frustration, how amor fati, the love of fate, can transform pain into meaning. We've practiced letting go, rehearsing hardships, and treating adversity as training. We've built inner peace resilience, and finally recognized the one thing that can never be taken away: ourselves. David's story showed us what this looks like in real life. An ordinary man facing an extraordinary storm, discovering that even when he lost his work, he did not lose his worth. And perhaps in his journey, you recognized pieces of your own. Here's what I want you to remember: storms will come. You cannot predict them, and you cannot prevent all of them. But you can decide how you will stand when they arrive. You can decide whether you will crumble or whether you will bend, adapt, and grow. The Stoics are not calling us to escape life, but to meet life with courage, clarity, and calm. Now I'd love to hear from you. What part of this journey spoke most deeply to you? Was it the idea of controlling what you can, the practice of letting go, or the reminder that adversity itself can train you? Share your reflections in the comments I read. Every one, and your voice may be exactly what another listener needs to hear today. If this message touched you, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep walking this path of wisdom together. There are always more lessons, more stories, more strength waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, may you carry calm in your heart, even when the world shakes around you. And remember, when everything else falls away, you still have yourself, and that is more powerful than you think.